we're going to reboot, and I'm going to have the service department, the parts department, and the tire department. And I told my parts manager, the only customer complaints I want is them saying that it smells like rubber in there. So that's what we're going to do.
Welcome to Retention Roadmap, navigating service success for new car dealerships. I'm delighted to welcome Eddie Campbell, Fixed Operations Director of Forest Lane Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram in Dallas, Texas. Eddie is also the brains behind EddieInService.com, whose mission is to provide entertaining and informative content that caters to both the everyday automotive customer and the passionate car enthusiast. Eddie joins us today to talk about what he sees as some of the biggest challenges for fixed operations in 2024 and beyond, especially as it relates to customer retention, and more importantly, how he's applying his decades of experience in effectively addressing those challenges head on. So Eddie, thanks for joining us today. Are you joining us from the Dallas area or another part of the world?
It is 102 here in Dallas, and that's why I'm joining you from the air conditioning instead of outside. Thank you, Bill Springer, for having me on here. I appreciate it. This is my first podcast.
All right.
Yeah.
It's our pleasure. I'm glad you could join us. So I think we met at least 15 years or so ago. I know it was in Dallas, but I know your background, but would you give our listeners kind of an overview of your background and how you came to be really where you are today?
I will. Really, it's my whole life. My dad owned a tire store for 37 years, so I grew up getting dirty and smelling like rubber every day, and on the weekends when I wasn't in school, hanging out with him. So, and he was a drag racer, and I got into it, and just cars are the entire aura and DNA of my life. So, and I love it. I love what I do. So it's been a real blessing for me to, if you do what you love, it's a really blessing. So.
Absolutely.
Worked for my dad for many years, as long as you can work for your dad without losing it. Was a technician. Had a friend that invited me to be a service advisor at a Lincoln store at a young age. I went from wearing a uniform to wearing a tie in just a day, and couldn't believe the difference in the two worlds, and loved it. And speaking of being hot earlier, I remember the day I quit being a technician. It was 4:03 on a Friday afternoon.
Wow.
It was about 108 outside, and I had one of those big Home Depot fans blowing on me.
Mm-hmm.
I was working on a Mercedes, and 108 was blowing on me, and I thought, I can't do this forever.
Yeah.
Now they have air-conditioned shops. So,
yeah.
I mean, my shop is air-conditioned, and
That's
you just
nice.
go outside to get a car, and you walk in, that cold breeze hits you. It's definitely one of the greatest things that's been invented for our times in the
Absolutely.
technician world.
It definitely helps with the technician retention and attraction.
Yep. So as a service advisor, worked my way up to a service drive manager, then service manager, then service director over multiple stores, and just had a blast my whole career.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, that explains, your background kind of explains why you're so big on tires, and because a lot of folks, fixed operations directors and some parts managers and that type of thing are not as all in enthusiastic about tires as you are. So beyond the fact that you grew up working in a tire store, tell us why you're so big on tires and why they're so important to a dealership service success.
I think I would still be in love with tires if I didn't grow up in the tire world. The number one reason people don't come back to a dealership is tire related. It's the number one defector of customers. So it's time to get tires. Dealerships don't do a good job of letting people know that we sell tires. So they go to an aftermarket or whatever, and they get the tires, and those people say, oh, we can do all the same things you've been getting done there, and you never see them again. And it's been going on for years. We all know the truth, but nobody will confront it. And I remember when I started with Ford 25 years ago, they had a program called Around the Wheel.
Right.
And it was, hey, we're going to sell everything around the wheel, which is still true today, even if we just get electric cars. It'll still be around the wheel. And with electric cars, batteries weighing 8,000 pounds, you can imagine what that's going to do to your tire. Right. Just the battery weighs more than some cars. So tires is where it's at. And, I just came back to Forest Lane. I was there 3.5 years ago. I just came back. We're going to reboot, and I'm going to have the service department, the parts department, and the tire department. And I told my parts manager, The only customer complaints I want is them saying that it smells like rubber in there. So that's what we're going to do.
Yeah, tires, we did a DriveSure service retention survey last year where we surveyed 1,400 active service customers of new car dealership service departments. So these are customers who had a scheduled maintenance service done within the previous 90 days. And we asked them a series of questions about tires. And we had done the same survey about 3 years prior. And I'm still surprised at the number of customers who are loyal service customers who don't realize the dealership sells tires. The number was over a third of active service customers didn't know whether or not their dealership sold tires or not. And I mean, it's still you mentioned a Ford Around the Wheel program, and I think that was one of the first OEM programs that really put a focus on tires. And kudos to Ford for recognizing that was a big opportunity and a big need to make sure the customers returned for tires. What other, so what other types of things, are you doing, Eddie, to help customers make sure they think of you when they need tires, given how important it is for retention?
I'm lucky that I have an owner that has my back, and he's going to let me turn it into a tire store that services cars. He believes in what I'm saying, and I do too. And I hired, I think, the number one tire guy in the country, Wes Volkert. And he's on fire for the tire business. I'm on fire for it. And when customers pull up, they're going to see tires on the service drive in there. I've just finished in the last 2 weeks making about 20 videos about tires that we're going to blast on Google, Instagram, Facebook, and just let people know in the tire business. You can get tires at a dealership cheaper than anywhere else. Just it's not out there. And it's, I was an advisor, and I remember, and it's even harder now to be an advisor than it used to be. I think there's all these programs you got to have on your computer lit up, ready to go, and you got to be a credit card expert, a tire expert, a car expert, a phone expert. So when it comes to tires, it's a little bit of a pain to them, but I'm going to make it easy on them and just have a tire department so that I can take that off of their plate.
Nice.
And used to, you really didn't make a lot of money on tires. Now you can make good money on tires, and it brings the customer back, and you're going to sell more cars by selling more tires.
Absolutely. What role do you find doing a good multi-point inspection has on not only your ability to make sure that customer comes back for tires, but to make sure that customer comes back for scheduled maintenance again?
We do video, which is a home run. The customer immediately calls when they get that video and say, do it.
Yep.
Yeah, but I haven't given you a price yet. I know, but I saw it with my own eyes. It needs tires, it needs brakes or whatever. So video is awesome. We live in 2024. I've always felt like the car business is a little bit behind on things, and I think video has definitely brought us to where we need to be. I'm going to try not to plug your product this entire time, but I'm one of your biggest fans. I think you know that.
Yeah, I do. Thank you.
Retention is so strong with your product, and I've been successful my entire career, and I always say I can crank out $100,000 in gross profit a month more by doing 3 or 4 little things. One of those things is calling DriveSure in, and now instead of seeing a customer 2 or 3 times a year, I see them 3 or 4 times a year, and I have so many good stories. I could take this thing for 2 hours. It's all good news. And I remember I had the president of a major university here in North Texas hunt me down one time. Going from employee to employee, who put this into place? Where did this come from? I thought I was in trouble. I go, hey, we got a customer out here. He came and introduced himself, and he said, because of your program, you saved my mom's life, and I just wanted to thank you for it.
Wow.
It was hot. She had a flat. She was elderly. And she, I think she was like 78 years old, remembered that sticker up on her window. And we told her how important it was that she keep that 1-800 number. And she called it, and they came out and changed her flat and got her on the road. And she didn't even call him. He found out about it later.
Yeah.
So he took the time off to come thank me and shake my hand. And I have so many stories just like that from using your product. So,
well, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah.
I'm trying to calm it down. I love DriveSure.
Thank you.
And it's evolved over the years. It gets better.
Yeah.
When I first started, even before I met you, we were trying to upsell it.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I wasn't too crazy about that.
Yeah.
And then at some point, I couldn't have been this smart, but I decided we're going to put it on every single car, no matter what. It didn't matter if they had a coupon or what. That's when the retention really took off.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
I was over 12 manufacturers one time in North Texas, and I put it at every store. And it was a town of about 270,000. And we started getting so many oil changes because of your program. Because I plastered it on billboards, and I'm old enough that we plastered it in newspapers. We had it on social media. And the oil change places that were around there, the aftermarket ones, they actually had a meeting one night on how can we stop Eddie Campbell from stealing all our customers.
I love
And
it.
I give DriveShare that credit. So it's a home run. I have
Well, I'm
people
sure
call me
there was a
from
lot
around the
more to
country.
it than that, but I
There
appreciate
is,
I
there is.
appreciate that for sure. That's kind of you to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Are you, tying back that story to the maintenance reminder sticker, are you still using putting maintenance reminder stickers on the customer's windshield?
You know, I put it on everything now. I put it on my
Good.
used cars. I
Yeah.
put it on my new cars. And I remember 15 years ago, I was having a meeting and I had everybody in there. I had a porter that could barely speak English. And we were trying to figure out how to get new car customers to come back.
Mm-hmm.
And he could barely get it out. But he said, why don't you put those stickers on brand new PDI cars? And I was like, oh, why wasn't I that smart? Why didn't I think of that? And I've
Yeah.
been doing it ever since. And, customers drive off in their brand new car. And then now there's a lot of sensors and things that tell them when to get an oil change. But that coverage runs out and it brings them back. I'm not a believer in the manufacturer tells you, yep, you can go 12,000 miles before you need your first oil change. But that's only if you're going to keep the car for 3 years.
Right.
That person after it's going to have an engine that's had oil changes too long before they were supposed to get done.
Yep. Yep.
Yep.
But just tying back to that same 2023 DriveShare service retention report, we also did some surveys on customer preferences and how they know when it's time to return back to the dealership for service. And if memory serves me correctly, it was between looking at the mileage on the sticker and looking at the date due, over 50% of the customers referred to that sticker specifically, relied upon that sticker specifically to get to know when to return. And I think in-vehicle indicators was like 12% or something like that. And but the point is that customers still rely upon that. And I know that there's plenty of people in my family, as a matter of fact, who, if a light came on a dashboard, they just look at it and say, "Oh, what does that emoji mean?" And I think there's a lot of customers like that. So I think there's certainly a movement from some OEMs to move away from that, but from using maintenance reminder stickers. But boy, they certainly are effective, and customers seem to still respond to them quite well.
And DriveShare knows when the product or when the expiration date is. So
Yep.
they get contacted by your company. I don't even have to do it. That says your coverage is about due. You need to go see
Yep.
Eddie. So
Yep, absolutely.
I don't know what the percentage of that helping the customer get back in, but it's got to be huge.
Right. Absolutely. So, in terms of your experience, Eddie, what are you seeing, in dealership service departments? What are some of the new challenges that you and other folks in your position are facing that, maybe something you've seen in the last 6 to 12 months that you haven't seen before, that's a new challenge with respect to, getting customers to come back into the dealership for service on a regular basis?
It's a big, huge thing, and I don't want to take up 2 hours of your time telling you this, but so I have 2 millennials daughters and 1 Gen Z daughter. I have probably had 50 Gen Z employees, and I was hard on all of them for about 4 or 5 years. And one day I asked one of my young technicians, he's 21, and I said, "What'd you do this weekend?" He said, "Well, me and my mom went to look for apartments this weekend." And he goes, "I found some, but I've got to make $58,000 a year to qualify." That really hit me because I'm from a different school of thought where you just rub some dirt in it and you get out there and you work harder. And the new generation, not their fault. I think they've had the hardest time since the generations of the 40s that none of us had. And
Agreed.
I think social media, which I love social media, but it pushed them into a negative direction. It's got a dark side to it. Then COVID hit. Then the economy hit. And they need our help. and they're not getting driver's license like we did. If they're not going to go get a driver's license, they're not going to want to turn a wrench. We got to get them interested in the car business again, which is kind of where Eddie and Service came from. And my goal is that Gen Z will turn 16, download eddieandservice.com or go to my YouTube, Eddie and Service, and I will coach them through taking care of their car through the rest of their career. And that's the relationship I want with them. So during the last 4 years, I've noticed that I see, maybe some other people's are different, but one Gen Z every 60 to 90 days brings their own car in by themselves to get it serviced. Their parents are still bringing their cars in for them.
Mm-hmm.
So their parents are having to take their kid's car to work, take off lunch, come and get an oil change, go take it back, and then give it to the kid that next day or that night. And coming to a dealership is intimidating. And I'm sure it's even more intimidating for Gen Z. And we got Gen Alpha now that's I think they're 13 years old, so they're coming up. I need them interested in cars, the car business, and I want to make their visit to my dealership so easy and pleasant. I want to be one of them. And so when I had that epiphany with that kid that came in and said, I came home and told my wife, I said, hey, I think I've been rough on Gen Z. She was like, oh, thank God. So I called my daughter and apologized to her. I said, I need to understand you guys. So before 9 months ago, all I had was LinkedIn. I had never had Facebook, no social media. I sure wasn't going to use AI. Now I love AI. But our generation, me, you, the car business, we have to talk to Gen Z or we're not going to have any customers or employees. And that's the whole thing that eddieandservice.com was born from.
Absolutely. That's great. And you're also, staying on eddieandservice.com, you're also, from what I understand, and please tell us more about this, is that you're not only focusing on, doing this for the benefit of your dealership and your brand, but you're trying to make sure customers understand the benefit of coming to dealers in general, and really funneling them to think of dealers first for their automotive maintenance and repair needs. So tell us a little bit more about what you're doing there.
Yeah, so customer satisfaction, CSI, has only gone up 1 point in 20 years. We've spent all this money, billions and billions of dollars, trying to get that customer to give us a better CSI score. I think it was 86.1 20 years ago, and that's like 87.3.
Yep.
I think, and the media gives car business a bad name, TV does. That's only a small part. That's the squeaky wheel yelling. 85% of our customers are really happy. They just don't go fill out a survey. Nobody pulls into the dealership and says, my car's running great. Here's some cookies. I'm going to tell everybody. It's just part of life. They're not bad. They're just, I have a hard time filling out surveys. I just know how important they are. So when I go to a restaurant, I fill it out even though it's a pain. But I guarantee if I was mad, it would give me more motivation to do that. So people do like coming to the dealership. And I remember I had this young lady on the service drive. She was 23 years old. She was about to get married. And we were having a great time. She was telling me she loves it at the dealership. And I was like, oh, you're getting married? What does your fiance drive? And she goes, oh, don't worry, you'll never see him. And I was like, why not? And she said, well, the day he graduated from college, his dad said, son, if you ever remember anything I ever tell you, it's never take your car to the service department. I was like, oh, my heart.
Yeah.
I said, please tell him to come in. Of all the things his dad could have told him, don't steal, don't rob or whatever. He told him not to go to. So I want to represent the positive side of the going to the dealership. And there is so much good that comes from the dealership.
Absolutely.
And we take out a lot of worry. We use factory parts. Our guys are trained to work on your car and put it back just like the factory designed it from day one. And I tell some people, the dealership's not for everybody. If you've got a 22-year-old car and you can't get parts for it and you need to go somewhere else, I get it. But bring your 15-year-old car or newer here. We can take care of it.
Absolutely. Yep. Absolutely. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, we've talked, mentioned a number of times today, the importance of retaining dealership customers. And just for our listeners, I want to make sure that they're aware that they can download our DriveSure Service Retention Service Audit Checklist, which is a comprehensive tool that we developed that will guide you through key areas of your service process and product offerings, helping you identify opportunities to, strengthen those customer relationships, improve service quality, and increase customer loyalty. You can get it at drivesure.com/resources, or simply send me a message on LinkedIn, and I'll make sure that you get a copy. But it's just a quick and easy way to do a self-audit on your service drive and look for those areas of improvement. That's fantastic, Eddie. You've given us a lot of great ideas that you shared with us today, and our listeners will get a lot from it. Everything from, tires, which I can't emphasize enough. I see in my travels around the country working with dealers that I haven't run across a single dealer who, doesn't have more opportunity to use to grow their tire business and leverage that to make sure that they maintain their customer relationships for a long time. And so fantastic. One other question before I let you go, Eddie. If you were to give yourself, the one piece of advice, if you were starting out as a service manager, what would that piece of advice be?
I'm on a kick right now to listen to vendors. My whole career, they would want to talk to me, and I'm like, I don't have time for that guy. I'm busy. I don't want to listen to it. Without vendors like you, we can't do the job we need. You take a lot of stuff off of our plate. And I remember the first time I got serious about DriveSure, and I watched that graph in a year just of my retention, and you just look at it and think, why didn't I do this sooner? And I think we as service directors, service managers, we need to listen a little bit more, take just 5 minutes. So vendors have the hardest job, and that's another thing that I'm getting into right now. But I think if we listen to the professionals like you guys, if they just gave DriveSure a chance for 1 year, they'd look like heroes, and whoever's name that signed up for that would they just think he was really smart, like people think I am, but it's really products like yours. So yeah. I'm like I told you earlier, I'm a huge cheerleader, and I love DriveSure.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah. I think the importance of working with your vendors, especially what I refer to as our mission critical vendors, they're a real leg on the stool that supports our company and supports our customers. And we, try and look upon them and make a concerted effort to treat them just like the important constituency that they are, just like employees and shareholders and customers, and that they can play a vital role and really bring an awful lot to the table. So I thank you for your compliments, but I think in general, it's always great to get that outside perspective. Eddie, if any of our listeners wanted to get in contact with you, what's the best way to do so?
I think everybody's more familiar with LinkedIn that's watching this probably. So you can look me up on LinkedIn, Eddie Campbell or Eddie in Service. Okay. On LinkedIn, also eddieinservice.com. You can contact me through there. And I have lots to offer in several different areas from that as I grow into letting Gen Z feel comfortable coming to the dealership. Yep. And look me up. I'd love to make a contact with them. Fantastic. Well, we'll include a link to eddieinservice.com as well as your contact info in the show notes so our listeners can find an easy way to get a hold of you. Appreciate your time, Eddie. Thanks for joining us. Thank you so much. This was a blast. My pleasure. You've been listening to Retention Roadmap, Navigating Service Success for New Car Dealerships. Subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts.